Tom quietly got all of Jeffrey's morning things ready before he woke up: his clothes, leg braces, lunch, and a fresh backpack with everything he'd need for the day. A little while later, Jeffrey stirred and slowly opened his eyes. He looked around, then sighed softly. "I guess this is my new normal," he said, his voice low. Tom sat beside him and gave a calm, reassuring look. "You're still adjusting, that's okay, it takes time." Jeffrey didn't respond right away. Tom continued gently, "A lot of people have been asking about you at the day program, they miss you." He picked up the backpack and placed it nearby. "I packed everything: your braces, lunch, and what you need. We'll take it one step at a time." Jeffrey looked at the bag, then back at Tom, still unsure, but not as alone. Jeffrey stayed quiet for a moment, staring at the backpack. Tom didn't rush him. "All right," Tom said softly, standing up. "Let's get you started." He pulled the curtains open just a little, letting in some morning light. "First things first, let's sit you up." Tom helped Jeffrey slowly move upright, supporting his back so he didn't strain himself. Jeffrey winced slightly but managed. "Still sore?" Tom asked. "A little," Jeffrey admitted. "That's normal, you're doing fine." Tom reached for the clothes he had laid out. "We'll go step by step." He helped Jeffrey get changed, careful and patient, giving him time to adjust between movements. Once that was done, Tom brought over the leg braces. "These might feel strange at first," he said. "Tell me if anything hurts." Jeffrey nodded, watching closely as Tom positioned them. It took a bit of adjusting, tightening straps, loosening others, making sure everything sat right. "How that?" Tom asked. Jeffrey shifted slightly. "Weird but okay." "Weird is a good start," Tom said with a small smile. Once the braces were secure, Tom reached for the backpack and set it by the door. "Everything's packed, you won't have to worry about anything." He turned back to Jeffrey. "Think you can stand, or do you want a little help?" Jeffrey hesitated, then said quietly, "Help just in case." Tom nodded. "I've got you." He guided Jeffrey carefully to his feet, steadying him as he found his balance. It wasn't perfect, but he stayed up. "See," Tom said, "one step at a time." Jeffrey took a small breath, still unsure but trying. Jeffrey stood there for a moment, unsteady but trying. After a few seconds, his legs started to shake. "All right," Tom said gently, keeping a steady hand on him. "Let's not push it too far yet." Jeffrey gave a small nod. Tom guided him carefully over toward his power chair. "Just a couple steps, I've got you." They moved slowly together. Each step was cautious, Jeffrey leaning on Tom for balance until they reached the chair. "Okay," Tom said, "turn a little." "Good." With Tom's help, Jeffrey eased himself down into the power chair. He let out a quiet breath once he was seated. "That's better," he admitted. Tom adjusted the footrests and made sure everything was positioned comfortably. "You did good, seriously." Jeffrey looked down at his hands, then at the controls of the chair. Tom noticed and gave a reassuring nod. "Go ahead, try it." Jeffrey hesitated, then gently moved the joystick. The chair hummed softly as it rolled forward just a little. A small, uncertain expression crossed his face. "I remember this." "Of course you do," Tom said. "It's still you, Jeffrey, nothing about that's changed." Jeffrey took a slow breath, then moved the chair a bit more, getting a feel for it again. Tom grabbed the backpack and slung it over the back of the chair. "We'll head out when you're ready." Jeffrey paused, then nodded faintly, not fully confident but moving forward. Jeffrey stood there for a moment, unsteady but trying. After a few seconds, his legs started to shake. "All right," Tom said gently, keeping a steady hand on him. "Let's not push it too far yet." Jeffrey gave a small nod. Tom guided him carefully over toward his power chair. "Just a couple steps, I've got you." They moved slowly together. Each step was cautious, Jeffrey leaning on Tom for balance until they reached the chair. "Okay," Tom said, "turn a little." "Good." With Tom's help, Jeffrey eased himself down into the power chair. He let out a quiet breath once he was seated. "That's better," he admitted. Tom adjusted the footrests and made sure everything was positioned comfortably. "You did good, seriously." Jeffrey looked down at his hands, then at the controls of the chair. Tom noticed and gave a reassuring nod. "Go ahead, try it." Jeffrey hesitated, then gently moved the joystick. The chair hummed softly as it rolled forward just a little. A small, uncertain expression crossed his face. I remember this. Of course you do, Tom said. It's still you, Jeffrey, nothing about that's changed. Jeffrey took a slow breath, then moved the chair a bit more, getting a feel for it again. Tom grabbed the backpack and slung it over the back of the chair. We'll head out when you're ready. Jeffrey paused, then nodded faintly, not fully confident but moving forward. Jeffrey's hands tightened slightly on the armrests of the chair. He stared forward, voice quieter now. I don't believe it, it was a year, he said. Feels like I just woke up. Tom stayed calm, standing beside him. It was a long time, yeah, that's why your stuff is in the bag. We've been keeping things together for you. Jeffrey swallowed, his expression tightening with something heavier than confusion. When I was in my coma, or whatever it was, he said slowly, you felt like a stranger, like someone I couldn't trust. That's why I was angry, even in front of everyone. Tom didn't interrupt, he let the words sit for a moment. Then he nodded slightly. That makes sense. Jeffrey looked at him, surprised by the response. Tom continued, voice steady. When people wake up after something like that, things don't always come back in the right order. Feelings get mixed up with memories. It can make everything feel off. Jeffrey looked down at his hands again. So I wasn't just being difficult. You were trying to make sense of things in the only way your mind could at the time, Tom said gently. That doesn't make you bad, it means you were confused and scared. A pause followed. Tom adjusted the strap on the backpack resting behind the chair. What matters now is you're here, and we can sort through the rest as it comes back. Jeffrey exhaled slowly, still processing but a little less tense than before. I don't remember most of it, he admitted. That's okay, Tom said. You don't have to remember everything all at once. He gave a small nod toward the door. We can take it one day at a time. When they arrived, people at the day program noticed Jeffrey right away. A few familiar faces looked over, some smiling, others surprised. A small wave of quiet attention followed him as Tom rolled the chair in. Someone gently patted Jeffrey's shoulder as he passed. Hey, it's good to see you back, a staff member said warmly. We've been waiting for you. Jeffrey gave a small, uncertain nod, still taking everything in. Tom stayed close beside him, watching carefully as the room filled with soft greetings and murmurs of relief. A woman nearby, one of the staff, leaned slightly toward Tom. He doing okay? Tom glanced at Jeffrey, then back at her. Yeah, he's good, just confused but okay. She nodded understandingly. That's expected after everything. Jeffrey looked between them, catching bits of the conversation. I'm fine, he said quietly, almost like he was testing the words. Tom placed a hand lightly on the back of the chair. You don't have to force it, just take your time settling in. The staff member smiled gently at Jeffrey. No pressure today, just easing back in. Jeffrey exhaled slowly, shoulders loosening just a little. Okay, he said. Tom gave a small nod. That's all we need for now. A man nearby noticed Jeffrey and gave him a warm, easy smile. Jeffrey, welcome back, he said. Come on in. Jeffrey paused for a second, taking it in. His grip on the armrest tightened slightly, then loosened. Thanks, he said quietly. Tom stayed close beside him but didn't speak right away, just gave a small nod of reassurance. The man stepped back to give them space, still smiling. We're glad you're here. Jeffrey rolled forward a little in his chair, slowly entering the room with Tom beside him. The sounds of the day program, soft conversation, movement, familiar routines started to settle around him. Tom leaned in slightly and spoke low enough only Jeffrey could hear. One step at a time, you're doing fine. Jeffrey didn't answer immediately, but he didn't stop either. Pat gave a small nod toward Jeffrey, watching him settle in. He's fine, Tom, you can go, Pat said calmly. We've got him here. Tom hesitated for a moment, still looking at Jeffrey to make sure he was okay. Jeffrey was already rolling a little further inside, slowly getting used to the room, the voices, the space. He didn't look panicked, just overwhelmed and focused. Tom finally exhaled and nodded. Okay. He turned slightly toward Pat. Mom, thanks, call me or Dea if anything comes up. Pat gave him a reassuring look. We will, go on, he'll be all right. Tom gave one last glance at Jeffrey, then stepped back toward the door. Jeffrey noticed him leaving and paused for a second. You coming back? He asked quietly. Tom softened, yeah, I'll be back. Jeffrey nodded faintly, then turned back forward as someone nearby started talking to him again, gently helping him settle into the day. Scott moved quickly but stayed calm, stepping closer so Jeffrey could hear him clearly over the noise. Jeffrey, hey, look at me, Scott said firmly but gently. You can breathe, you're having a panic attack, you're going to be okay. Jeffrey's chest was rising fast, his hands gripping the armrests. I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Scott nodded, keeping his voice steady. I hear you, it feels like you can't, but you are breathing, stay with me. He lowered his tone a bit. We're going to slow it down together, all right, just follow my voice. Scott gestured slightly, not touching him too much, giving him space but staying close. In, slow breath in, good, now out, that's it. Jeffrey struggled at first, still panicked, but Scott didn't rush him. You're safe, Scott said. You're in the day program, nothing is happening to you right now, you're okay. A few seconds passed. Jeffrey's breathing started to even out slightly, still shaky but less frantic. Scott nodded, that's it, keep going, you're doing it. Around them, the room stayed quiet and respectful, giving space as Jeffrey slowly began to come back down from the panic. Pat raised her voice just enough for the room to hear, but kept it calm and controlled. Everyone, please don't crowd Jeffrey, she said firmly. I know everyone missed him, but he may not remember everyone yet, and surrounding him all at once isn't helping him. A few people immediately stepped back, creating more space around his chair. Scott stayed close but unobtrusive, still focused on Jeffrey's breathing. That's better, Pat added, softening her tone. Let him settle in at his own pace. Jeffrey was still catching his breath, shoulders tense but slowly easing as the space around him opened up. Scott spoke gently again, you're doing better, just keep breathing with me. Jeffrey nodded faintly, eyes unfocused but no longer as panicked. Pat looked toward Tom at the door for a moment, then back to Jeffrey. He's okay, she said quietly, we're going to take this slow. The room stayed quieter now, the pressure easing as everyone gave Jeffrey the space he needed to steady himself. Scott leaned in slightly, keeping his voice calm and steady. Jeffrey, do you mind if I drive your chair? He asked. We can just go outside and walk and talk for a bit. Jeffrey, still a little shaken but more settled now, gave a small nod. Yes, please. All right, Scott said gently, I've got you. He carefully took control of the chair, making sure Jeffrey was comfortable and secure before easing them toward the exit. Pat watched them go, her expression soft but attentive. Take your time, she said quietly, no rush. Scott gave a small nod in response and guided the chair forward at a slow, steady pace. As they moved toward the outside, the noise of the room began to fade, replaced by a quieter, calmer space, giving Jeffrey a chance to breathe and reset. Scott spoke gently as they went. You're doing okay, just focus on me and the movement, all right. Jeffrey didn't answer right away, but his breathing stayed steadier this time as they headed outside. Scott kept the chair moving slowly, making sure the pace stayed calm as they got outside. The air was quieter here, less crowded, more open. Yeah, I'm Scott, he said gently after Jeffrey spoke. Jeffrey looked down at his hands, voice shaky but more grounded than before. I know I was in a coma, but when I got out, everything changed. My coma mom and dad aren't my real parents. My brother I don't even know anymore. My group home aide is like my dad now, and all those people I don't even really know, they're my friends. It's a lot. Scott nodded slowly, not interrupting. That is a lot, he agreed after a moment, more than anyone should have to sort through all at once. They rolled along the sidewalk path outside the building. Scott kept his tone steady. When something like what you went through happens, your life can get rearranged while you're not aware of it. So when you wake up, it can feel like you've stepped into someone else's story. Jeffrey stayed quiet, listening. Scott continued, but we don't have to figure all of it out today, or even this week. Right now, the goal is just helping you feel steady again. A pause. Then softer, you're allowed to take your time with who people are to you now. Jeffrey exhaled slowly, still processing but less overwhelmed than before. It's confusing, he admitted. Yeah, Scott said, and you don't have to sort it alone. Scott slowed the chair a little as they reached a quieter stretch of the path, keeping his tone steady and calm. Hey, he said gently, I want you to know something. Jeffrey glanced up slightly, still processing everything. I was your aide since you were in ninth grade, Scott continued. Your grandma knew you get overwhelmed easily, that's why things were set up the way they were. Jeffrey's expression shifted, confusion mixing with faint recognition. Scott added, so you don't need to apologize for anything that happened when things got too much. Not for the panic earlier, not for how you reacted in the room, that's what I'm here for. They paused near a bench outside. Scott looked at him, you're not expected to hold all of this together on your own. Jeffrey took a slow breath, his shoulders loosening a little as the words sank in. I didn't remember that, he said quietly. That's okay, Scott replied. You don't have to remember everything right away, we'll go at your pace. The chair rolled forward again slightly, just enough to keep them moving but without pressure. You're safe right now, Scott added, that's what matters. Scott didn't rush to respond. He kept the chair steady and the pace slow, giving Jeffrey space to say it. Jeffrey's voice was quieter now, more strained. I don't know anything before the coma, he said. I don't remember that seizure that got me into the coma to begin with. Scott nodded slowly. Okay. A pause. That's actually something we see sometimes after something that's serious, Scott said gently. Your brain doesn't always keep the memory of what caused it, especially after a seizure and a coma, it can leave gaps. They reached the edge of a small shaded area outside, where it was quieter. Scott kept his tone even. Not remembering doesn't mean it didn't happen, it just means your mind didn't store it the way you expected. Jeffrey stared ahead, breathing slower now but still tense. So, I'm just missing pieces of my own life. In some ways, yeah, Scott said honestly. But that doesn't mean you're gone from it, you're still here, and people around you can help fill in the parts you don't have only when you're ready. He glanced at Jeffrey, and you don't have to force those pieces to come back. Jeffrey swallowed, then nodded faintly, like he was trying to accept that idea even if it didn't feel real yet. That's weird, he said. Scott gave a small, understanding nod. Yeah, it is. David walked over at an easy pace, stopping a few feet away so Jeffrey didn't feel crowded. Jeffrey, welcome back, he said warmly, giving a small nod. Jeffrey looked at him for a moment, still taking people in one by one. Thanks, he said quietly. Scott gave a slight nod toward David in acknowledgement. David's attention shifted briefly to Scott. Scott, I'll order food tonight, no cooking for you or him, just take it easy. Scott let out a small breath that was almost a half smile. Appreciate it. David looked back at Jeffrey. We're glad you're here, all right, no pressure today, just settle in. Jeffrey nodded faintly again, absorbing it all. Scott gently adjusted the chair a little so Jeffrey was more comfortable in the shade. You hearing that? He said softly, no pressure. Jeffrey exhaled slowly. Yeah, I hear it. David gave one last reassuring nod. Good, we've got you. David leaned in a little toward Scott, trying to close the distance for a quick kiss. Scott immediately shifted back, raising a hand slightly but keeping his tone calm. Not at work, he said firmly but not harshly. The moment paused. Jeffrey, still sitting in the chair, looked between them, processing everything in pieces. His voice came out uneven but sincere. I had a big change in my life, he said. Even if I don't remember all of it, be you, because you might not see tomorrow, take it from a disabled guy that almost died. David straightened a little, his expression softening. It's just Jeffrey here, he said, a bit emotional, and he was at our wedding. Scott exhaled slowly, nodding once. He's dealing with memory loss after the coma, he said gently, keeping things grounded. Jeffrey looked down at his hands, then back up. I'm still me, he said quietly. Even if I'm missing pieces, I'm still real. Love is love. Man and man, woman and woman, love is love. For a moment the air softened. Scott gave a small, reassuring look. You didn't change a bit, he said kindly. Jeffrey nodded faintly, still processing everything around him but holding onto his own words now. I'm still here, he added quieter. And that's what matters, Scott said. Scott glanced back toward the building, then gently turned the chair a little. Come on, he said softly, let's head back before your grandma starts looking for us. Jeffrey let out a small breath, calmer now than before. Yeah, okay. Scott kept the pace slow as they started back inside. You did really good out here, Scott added, seriously. Jeffrey didn't say much, but he nodded faintly. As they reached the door, the sounds of the day program drifted back toward them, but it didn't feel as overwhelming as before. Scott leaned in slightly. Remember, we can step out again anytime you need. Jeffrey glanced up at him, thanks. Scott gave a small nod and guided him inside, both of them a little more steady than when they left. Eid stepped over, keeping a respectful distance this time, a small smile on his face. Jeffrey, I missed you, buddy, he said. We've been friends since 4th grade. Jeffrey looked at him, trying to place the face, the voice. He said softly, unsure. Scott gave a gentle, reassuring smile. Jeffrey, you two never stopped talking once you met back then, he said. You were always going back and forth. Eid chuckled lightly. Yeah, that's true. Teachers used to separate us all the time. Jeffrey blinked, a faint hint of curiosity showing through the confusion. Really? Really, Eid said. You used to tell the longest stories. Scott added quietly, you might not remember yet, and that's okay. Jeffrey looked between them, still unsure but a little less tense. Okay, he said, taking it in one piece at a time. Tom and Dea stepped inside, looking around until they spotted Jeffrey. Dea moved a little quicker, concern on her face. Hey, how was he? Scott met them halfway, keeping his voice calm and reassuring. He's coming back slowly, he said. Had a panic attack earlier, but he worked through it. He just needs time and space. Tom nodded, taking that in. Okay, that's fair. They walked over to Jeffrey together. Dea crouched slightly so she was more at his level. Hey, you ready to go home? Jeffrey looked at her, recognition not fully there, but he didn't pull away. Yeah, he said quietly. Tom gave Scott a grateful look. Thanks for sticking with him. Of course, Scott replied. Just keep things calm tonight, no pressure, no big questions. Dea nodded, got it. Scott added, and if he gets overwhelmed again, same thing, slow breathing, quiet space. Tom placed a hand gently on the back of the chair. We'll take it easy. Jeffrey glanced between all of them, still processing, but calmer than before. Home sounds good, he said. Scott gave a small nod. Good first day back. Josh turned in his seat as they got into the van. Jeff, how was it? Jeffrey stared ahead for a moment before answering. Same as home, he said quietly. People coming up to me asking if I remember them. I say nothing because what if they're lying? Ron from the front shook his head gently. Nobody's lying at home, Jeffrey. Jeffrey's voice tightened a little. I know, but it's hard. People know more about my life than I do. The van went quiet for a second. Tom spoke calmly from beside him. That makes sense, it would feel strange for anyone. Dea added softly, you're trying to catch up to a story everyone else already knows. Jeffrey nodded faintly, yeah. Josh leaned back slightly, keeping his tone light but sincere. You don't have to answer everyone right away, you can just say, I don't remember yet. That's not a bad thing. Jeffrey thought about that. Ron added, and the people who care about you, they'll understand. The real ones won't rush you. Jeffrey exhaled slowly, some of the tension easing. Okay. Tom gave a small nod. We'll take it one piece at a time, no pressure to know everything today. Jeffrey looked out the window, quieter now, but not as overwhelmed. One piece, he repeated. Josh noticed Jeffrey wasn't sitting quite upright and frowned a little. Hold on, Jeff. Before anyone could react, Josh carefully adjusted the chair back and helped reposition him more comfortably, making sure Jeffrey was properly supported in the power chair. There, Josh said, checking that his arms and shoulders were settled safely. Better. Jeffrey blinked a few times, then shifted slightly as the chair felt more stable. A bit, he admitted. Dea glanced back from the front seat. Good catch. Tom nodded too. Yeah, thanks for fixing that. Josh shrugged like it was nothing, just want him comfortable. Jeffrey let out a slow breath, tension easing a little more now that he was properly supported. He looked down at his hands, then around at everyone in the van. Home, he said quietly, almost like he was reminding himself. Tom gave a soft nod. Yeah, home. Jeffrey shifted a little in the power chair, looking down as he spoke. When we get home, can someone keep Linda away from my room? He said quietly. I know she's a toddler and she misses me like everyone else, but I can't handle everything at once. Dea turned in her seat, her voice gentle. We get it, you're still adjusting to everything. Tom nodded beside her. We've got you, we know it's not easy, you just came out of a coma, take it slow. He added more carefully, choosing his words. You're not supposed to be back to your old self right away, it takes time to figure out what normal even is now. Jeffrey let out a small breath, still tense but listening. It's just a lot, he admitted. Dea softened her tone. Yeah, and you don't have to manage it all at once, we'll help set boundaries at home so you can rest. Tom agreed, we'll make sure your space is respected, no surprises, no overwhelm. Jeffrey nodded faintly, looking out the window again. Okay, he said, just slow. Tom gave a small reassuring nod. Slow is exactly what we're doing. Tom gave a small nod as the van continued forward. Thanks for telling us that, he said gently. Because this is all new for you, we know you, but you've got a different reality right now, we need to go at your pace. Jeffrey glanced over unsure. You're not mad. Dea shook her head immediately. No, Jeffrey, not mad at all, you're going to be respected. If you say Linda can't go in your room, that's okay, we'll help make that happen. Josh leaned back slightly, then added with a more honest tone, even me, I go in your room and you want me out, I'll be mad for a second, but I get it, it's your space. Tom nodded in agreement. Yeah, boundaries aren't a bad thing, they're part of helping you feel safe again. Jeffrey exhaled slowly, some of the tension in his shoulders easing. Okay, he said quietly, I just don't want everything to be too much. Dea softened her voice, then we'll keep it from being too much. Tom added, one step at a time, you're not expected to handle it all at once. Jeffrey looked down at his hands again, calmer now. One step, he repeated. Exactly, Tom said. Once they got home, Tom carefully helped Jeffrey settle into bed, making sure he was comfortable and properly supported. All right, Tom said softly, adjusting the blanket. You're good here, just rest. Jeffrey let out a slow breath. Okay. Dea stayed nearby for a moment. We're right down the hall if you need anything. Tom nodded, no pressure, just rest. They gave him a bit of space as Jeffrey finally relaxed into the bed, the day catching up to him. After a few minutes, Josh stepped aside in the hallway and looked toward Tom and Dea. Mom, Dad, he said quietly, after Jeffrey goes to bed, can I talk with both of you alone? Tom exchanged a quick look with Dea, then nodded. Yeah, of course. Dea added gently, we'll talk after he's settled. Josh gave a small nod, thanks. Behind them, Jeffrey stayed quiet in his room, finally getting a moment of rest as the house shifted into a calmer evening rhythm. Josh stood a little stiffly, looking between Tom and Dea like he wasn't sure how to even say it out loud. I know this is going to be hard to hear, he said, but I miss him. Tom's expression softened immediately. We know, we miss him too, Jeffrey is going through this, it is hard, we know. Josh shook his head quickly. No, Dad, I miss pre-seizure Jeffrey, I know it's messed up to say that, but this isn't the brother I used to know. The room went quiet for a moment. Dea stepped a little closer, her voice calm and steady. Josh, it's okay to grieve what changed, that doesn't make you a bad person. Tom nodded slowly. What you're feeling is real, but Jeffrey is still your brother, he's just going through something life-changing. Right now he's confused, not gone. Josh looked down at the floor, jaw tight. It just feels like I lost him. Dea answered gently, it can feel like that sometimes, but he's still here, and he needs time, not pressure, to become stable again. Tom added, and you don't have to force yourself to pretend everything is the same, just try to meet him where he is now. Josh let out a slow breath, still struggling with it. I don't know how. Dea nodded, we'll help you with that, all of us. Tom placed a hand on Josh's shoulder. You're not alone in this either. Josh didn't respond right away, but he stayed there listening. Josh swallowed hard, his voice tighter now. He said he doesn't want Linda in his room right now, he said. That scares me, the old Jeffrey would never say that. Tom took a slow breath and stepped closer, making sure Josh was looking at him. Josh, look at me, Tom said gently, he is still your brother. Josh's eyes flickered with frustration and hurt. I know it's hard, Tom continued, keeping his voice steady. Your mom and I are scared too, but we're trying to stay hopeful. We're praying that your brother is healing right now, mentally and physically. Dea nodded softly beside them. This isn't who he's always going to be. Right now he's overwhelmed, confused, and trying to figure out what feels safe. Josh's voice dropped, but it feels like he's changing into someone else. Tom shook his head slightly. No, it feels like that because the injury changed how he processes everything, but underneath that he's still Jeffrey. A pause settled over them. Dea added gently, and part of helping him heal is respecting what he can handle right now, even if it doesn't look like the old version of him. Josh looked down, breathing uneven. I just miss him. Tom pulled him into a brief, firm hug. We know, we do too. And for a moment, all three of them stood there with the same truth, missing who he was and trying to support who he was becoming. Linda stood nearby, looking up with concern. Is Jeffrey going to be okay? She asked quietly. Dea knelt a little so she was at Linda's level, her voice soft. Like we told Josh, we're going to keep praying for him and taking care of him. Linda hesitated, frowning a little. He doesn't like me anymore. Tom shook his head right away. No, that's not it. He chose his words carefully. He just needs more time to heal and adjust. Right now, things feel overwhelming for him, so he's asking for space, that's all. Dea added gently, it's not about not loving people, it's about what he can handle in the moment. Linda looked down, processing that slowly. Okay, she said softly. Tom gave a small, reassuring nod. You're still part of his life, just we have to move slow right now. Linda didn't say anything else, but she stayed close, calmer now, as the adults tried to keep everything steady for everyone involved. Josh stood there for a moment, arms tense at his sides before he finally spoke again. I didn't say anything before because I didn't want Jeffrey to feel bad, he admitted. He's already got enough issues to deal with, I didn't want to add one more. Tom listened closely, his expression softening. Dea nodded slowly. That's considerate of you, Josh. Josh shook his head a little. It's just, I'm trying not to make it worse for him, he's already overwhelmed. Tom stepped a bit closer. I understand why you held it in, but you don't have to carry all of that alone either. Dea added gently, being honest about how you feel doesn't mean you're hurting him, it just means we can help you too. Josh looked down, quieter now. I just don't want to be another problem in his head. Tom placed a steady hand on his shoulder. You're not a problem, you're his brother, and we're going to figure this out as a family without anyone having to pretend they're okay when they're not. Josh took a slow breath, still conflicted but listening. Okay, he said quietly. Dea gave him a small nod, one step at a time for all of us. Josh's voice dropped a bit as he looked between them. Does this make me a bad person? He asked, because it feels like it does. Tom answered quickly but calmly, no, it doesn't. Dea stepped closer, her tone steady and warm. Josh, what you're feeling is guilt and grief. That's not the same thing as being a bad person. Josh frowned, still struggling with it. But I said I miss the old Jeffrey and I don't know if I can handle him like this. Tom nodded slowly. That's honest, and honesty about how you're struggling doesn't make you bad. Dea added, a bad person would stop caring. You're doing the opposite, you're trying really hard not to hurt him. Josh swallowed, eyes a little red. I just feel like I'm failing him. Tom shook his head. You're not failing him, you're adjusting to something painful and confusing, that's different. A pause settled in. Dea softened her voice. You can love your brother and still feel sad about what changed. Both things can be true at the same time. Josh let out a shaky breath, looking down. I don't know how to do this right, he admitted. Tom gave his shoulder a gentle squeeze. There isn't a perfect way, just a real one, and you're already in it. Tom glanced around the house, his voice soft but firm. All right, go to bed, you two, he said gently. We can talk more in the morning. Josh nodded slowly, still a bit overwhelmed. Yeah, okay. Dea gave a small, reassuring look. We'll pick this up tomorrow, no need to solve everything tonight. Tom added, just rest, that goes for everyone. The tension in the room eased a little as the conversation wound down. Josh headed toward his room more quietly now, shoulders still heavy but a bit steadier than before. Dea paused for a moment, then followed Tom's lead toward settling in for the night. The house grew calmer, the day finally slowing down, giving everyone space to breathe, process, and rest. Morning light filtered into the room as Jeffrey sat with Tom, his voice quieter but heavy. "Dad, do you think after I woke up from the coma I messed up?" he asked. "Because it feels like I did, and I overheard everyone talking about me last night." Tom didn't react with alarm, just calm, steady attention. "No," he said gently, "you didn't mess up." Jeffrey looked down. "Then why does it feel like that?" Tom leaned forward slightly. "Because everything is different right now. You're trying to make sense of it and you're picking up on other people's emotions. That can make it feel like you did something wrong even when you didn't." Jeffrey hesitated. "They were talking about me." Tom nodded. "Yeah, we were, but not in a bad way." Jeffrey looked up a little. "We were trying to figure out how to help you," Tom explained. "Josh is having a hard time adjusting too. He misses how things used to be. That doesn't mean he doesn't love you, it just means he's struggling." Jeffrey's expression tightened slightly. "So I did change." Tom answered honestly. "Yeah, some things changed, but that doesn't mean you're broken or that you did something wrong." A pause. Tom softened his tone. "You went through something serious. Your brain and body are still healing. Of course things feel different." Jeffrey swallowed. "It just feels like I messed everything up." Tom shook his head gently. "No, what happened to you isn't something you caused or chose. You're dealing with it the best you can." Jeffrey stayed quiet, processing. Tom added, "And overhearing bits of a conversation without the full context can make it sound worse than it is." Jeffrey nodded faintly. "Okay," he said. Tom gave a small, reassuring look. "We're on your side always." Jeffrey didn't fully relax, but he didn't look as weighed down as before. Jeffrey's voice wavered a little. "Dad, yesterday at Dayhab, everyone, even Grandma Pat, acted weird. Then I came home and it felt the same. I'm sorry for changing." Tom didn't let that sit for long. "Hey," he said gently but firmly, "no, you don't apologize for this." Jeffrey looked down. "But everything's different because of me." Tom shook his head. "Everything's different because something happened to you, not because you chose to change." He leaned in a little closer. "People might seem weird because they're worried or they don't know how to act yet. They care about you and they're adjusting too." Jeffrey's shoulders tensed. "It feels like I messed everyone up." "You didn't," Tom said calmly. "You went through something serious and now everyone, including you, is figuring out what comes next." A pause. Tom softened his voice. "And listen to me, you being alive, being here, talking to me right now, that matters a lot more than things being exactly the way they used to be." Jeffrey blinked, trying to take that in. "It just feels wrong," he admitted. Tom nodded. "Yeah, it can feel that way for a while, but different doesn't mean bad. It just means new, and new takes time." Jeffrey stayed quiet, but he wasn't as tense. Tom added, "You don't owe anyone an apology for surviving and healing." Jeffrey exhaled slowly. "Okay," he said, still unsure but listening. Tom placed a steady hand on Jeffrey's shoulder, making sure he was really listening. "Jeffrey," he said gently, "we always got you, no matter what." Jeffrey looked up at him, still unsure but searching his face. Tom continued, "Through the confusion, the memory stuff, the hard days, all of it, you're not doing this alone." Jeffrey's voice was quiet. "Even if I'm different." Tom didn't hesitate. "Even if things feel different, you're still you and you're still our son." A pause. Jeffrey let out a slow breath, some of the weight easing just a little. "Okay," he said. Tom gave a small nod. "That's all you need right now."